Greetings and welcome to Classic Game Room, where I bring you the very first PANZER DRAGOON for the Sega Saturn, released in 1995. This is the Japanese version, so I can't read anything on the back except for sale and use only in Japan. But it plays so well in space. Or anywhere else for that matter, and I imagine that music gives many of you listening chills. It's one of the greatest video game themes ever created. Put your hands together, people. It's the first PANZER DRAGOON. It's about time, right? What a game. Turn up the volume. This beautiful imaginative release for the fledgling Sega Saturn in 1995 has gorgeous visuals and amazing music, yet boasts some of the worst American box art I've ever seen. The Japanese version looks way cooler. PANZER DRAGOON is impressive today, let alone in 1995. Had more people actually played this back then, we might be up to the Sega Saturn V by now. PANZER DRAGOON is like a hyper-stylized shooter on rails, where you basically go with the flow of the game but have some control over where your little dragon thing is flying. So it's kind of like Afterburner, but not really, because it feels like you're flying a living thing. It's not totally under your control. Using the front buttons on the Saturn controller, you can also rotate your camera 360 degrees to fight enemies all around you. So it's really a wild game, a lot of fun that feels years ahead of its time. That frankly should be more popular than it is. I don't think a lot of people in the West embraced PANZER DRAGOON, or the Saturn for that matter, when it was new. I remember some friends talking about this back in the day, but nobody had it, and the box art looked awful and didn't convey what PANZER DRAGOON was all about. Over time, I think this series became more popular, thanks in no small part to the internet, but we could use a new PANZER DRAGOON today. This is a game that feels special. It's more than just an arcade-style shooter, it's an adventure, with lavish production values and some of the best music you'll ever hear in a game. It's as much fun to rock out to PANZER DRAGOON as it is to play it, and fortunately they give you a music-only enjoyment screen. I love these. As good as everything else is in PANZER DRAGOON, in my opinion, the music steals the show. It's actually a very straightforward game with a stylish paint job that reminds me of one of my favorite games ever made, Omega Boost, which came out several years after this. You fly around the screen while locking onto enemy targets and launching missiles. You're also equipped with a standard shot that can be used to blow up enemy projectiles, and during boss battles you'll frequently have to use your camera rotation. All of these things combined with the music gives PANZER DRAGOON the feeling of an involved adventure rather than just a straightforward arcade experience. Until about level 4, when you realize PANZER DRAGOON can be as punishing as Space Harrier. Dragons weren't designed for this. Give me open space. There's many sequels: PANZER DRAGOON 2 on the Sega Saturn, PANZER DRAGOON Mini for the Game Gear, which I just reviewed, PANZER DRAGOON Orta on the Xbox, and the cult classic PANZER DRAGOON Saga, the most affordable of the bunch. Heavy sarcasm. A huge classic game room shout out and thank you to Frank from California, from San Leandro, California, who sent this to the show quite some time ago. It's an awesome game that still holds its value, but it's worth it, every penny. If you have the action replay card for the Saturn, you can use a few cheat codes like super hyperspeed and invincibility to practice those boss battles. So come for the gameplay, stay for the music and the gameplay. It's all good. It's PANZER DRAGOON for the Sega Saturn. Thanks again to Frank and everyone involved who made this classic masterpiece.